Together, we will make America great again.
RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show.
Time for a bit of the old ultra-violence.
Oh my droogs. Good evening, everyone. And welcome back to a Clockwork Orange special edition of Red Pill News Live. The CIA's favorite Senator, Elissa Slotkin, is officially under investigation by the Department of Justice for her participation in the Seditious 6 video. My goodness. This will be the only time I do this introduction, but I made this thumbnail because I couldn't help it. Elissa Slotkin always looked to me in that video like she was a member of the Big Brother Stasi. She was wearing that black leather jacket, and this is what Grok came up with. She may well be. I don't know what her personal life is, what she's doing in her personal life. But either way, the CIA's own Seditious 6 leader agent, Elissa Slotkin, is under DOJ investigation, and I cannot wait to see what happens. If you guys wouldn't mind, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the red pill, help us out by sharing the show. And of course, kick back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're about to get into it right about now. All right. Now, if you have not seen Clockwork Orange, it is one of those films that I think everybody should watch. It is, of course, a crazy dystopian view of what could potentially happen if all of the wrong things happen. And it's ironic because Britain has gone in a very different direction, but it's just as dystopian and it is just as chaotic. It's just that the people committing the crazy dystopian actions are not the people who were predicted to be committing them. However, there is a strong undercurrent of mind control and, of course, a sort of Big Brother-esque, all-pervasive, Big Daddy government that's actually very similar to what we are fighting against right now. Speaking of that Big Brother government, our first story goes right in line with the efforts that we're attempting to undertake to undermine that Big Brother sort of all-pervasive government. Now, let me first, though, before we talk about that, I need to say thank you to a couple of friends over here on Pilled. First of all, Trump1 says, good afternoon, Zach. Much love and thanks for all you do. Thank you, my friend. Moonbaby0437 says, thank you for the news, RP. I appreciate your work. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Trump1 also says, in that case, LFG. Let's go. Let's right. Let us begin by checking in with a little election security vibe. This is a big, big story right here, and it's kind of flying under the radar. But the Supreme Court literally just handed a massive win to any political candidates that would be interested in challenging the legality of the way that votes are being counted. And it also removes a major obstacle to real people being elected in these places where ballot harvesting, election fraud, those sorts of things have been used in the past. This was an overwhelmingly unanimous decision, although not totally unanimous. It was a 7-2 decision. But what the case had to do with was a Republican congressman by the name of Mike Bost. He's from Illinois. I know that we've always got some Illinois viewers in the chat. He now, as a result of this decision by the Supreme Court, has legal standing to challenge the state of Illinois and an unconstitutional law they have. That law, very similar to other states around the country, which, of course, now after this decision, they will also have standing. But what it does is allows for mail-in ballots to be counted for up to 14 days past Election Day. So the ruling now reverses a decision by the Seventh Circuit Court, and it sends the case back to the lower court, where Illinois' late ballot scheme will now be reevaluated on its merits. This is quite literally a game changer. Think about how many people who have run for office have come forward. Perhaps they've won on election night, and then the ballots just keep coming in. Think about all of those overseas military ballots that came in, and all of them in 2020 were for Joe Biden. Also, none of them happened to match anybody that was listed as a registered voter in the system in a place like Michigan. Very similar to what Congressman Bost was facing. For years, Democrats and their proxies in the mainstream media have always relied on these mail-in ballots that seem to just show up out of nowhere. They say every single vote has to be counted. Well, Election Day is Election Day, and people who are casting ballots, if they are sending them from overseas or they are putting them in the mail, you should be a big enough adult to understand that if you don't put your ballot in the mail by a certain point, it's not going to arrive. And even then, I don't necessarily trust it because I don't really trust the U.S. Postal Service. But by allowing these ballots to come in after Election Day, it shifts the goalposts. It allows for more and more ballots to come in for days, obviously sometimes weeks, even after the polls close. If you go back to 2020, these mail-in ballots and these drop box ballots were used to artificially inflate the totals for Joe Biden. Of course, anytime they pause the counting and they suddenly come up with a massive batch of ballots which only go one way, you know that when that happens in the middle of the night, nothing good could be happening. But now with this decision by the United States Supreme Court, it opens the door for Republicans to have standing to sue to stop that. Think about how many candidates this has happened to. And they attempted to sue to stop these ballots from being counted after election night. And time again, even before they get an opportunity to present any evidence of potential fraud taking place, they were told, well, you don't have any standing. Pardon me, Mr. or Mrs. Judge. If I, the candidate, do not have standing to sue for illegal actions taking place in my own race, then who has standing? According to the judges, the only people who ever had standing were the people who were fraudulently counting these ballots, apparently. Chief Justice John Roberts he wrote the decision for the majority, and he said pretty clearly, candidates have a personal stake in the rules governing their elections, meaning, yes, of course, they have standing. This destroys the argument that's been made by the left that the only reason Republicans can sue is if they have some specific fraudulent ballot and they can show that it cost them the race. But we all know that that was a non sequitur. It's something that's designed to draw the attention someplace else because, of course, the rules they also have dictate that they've got all this secrecy around them. They won't allow people to see them. Take a look down in Georgia. It's 2025, and we still can't get anything out of Fulton County, even though the decision was made long ago that they had to hand it over. So Roberts writes in his decision, he is a candidate for office, meaning Bost, and a candidate has a personal stake in the rules that govern the counting of votes in his election. An unlawful election rule can injure a candidate in several ways. It might cause him to lose the election. It might require him to expend additional resources. Or it might decrease his vote share and damage his reputation. Respondents concede that each of these harms can be legally cognizable, but they contend that Congressman Bost failed to adequately plead any such harm here. We need not resolve whether respondents are right, because winning and doing so as inexpensively and decisively as possible are not a candidate's only interests in an election. To start, candidates also have an interest in a fair process. It is frankly mind-blowing to hear this coming from the mouths of someone in our judicial system. Finally, we've got some sanity that we're seeing presented. candidates are not common competitors in the economic marketplace. Candidates also have an interest in a fair process. They seek to represent the people. So naturally, it was the liberal justices who had a problem with this. The dissenters on SCOTUS were Justice Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Pretty much they are well aware of what's going to happen if election month becomes election day, as it is meant to be. You've got 14 states and Washington, D.C., all that allow ballots to be counted if they arrive after Election Day, provided they are postmarked on or before Election Day. The following states do accept ballots that arrive late as long as they have a valid postmark. Those would be Alaska, California, D.C., Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Texas, but they must be received by 5 p.m. the day after Election Day. Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, and territories like Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, and Guam also typically accept late arriving ballots if they are postmarked by Election Day. You've got a couple of states also that accept late arriving ballots that have recently passed laws requiring ballots to be actually in the hands of election officials by the time that polls close on Election Day, regardless of they were mailed or they were just handed over physically. Kansas, they just changed the law for 2024-2025. North Dakota, they changed it last year. Ohio and Utah, the exact same thing. All other states, like here in Florida, your ballot must be received by the county election office at the close of polls on Election Day. That should be the law throughout the entire country. If you get to the point in your life where you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to hold a job, you're old enough to pay your bills, you're old enough to have all of the responsibilities that come with being an adult, you know the date of the election day, you know exactly how you're going to vote, and you can't get to the polls, you can't get your ballot in the hands of election officials, that's on you, bro. Like, there are so many different ways for people to vote. There are too many ways for people to vote. There are too many loopholes for people to abuse this system. I'm glad we just closed one of them. So congratulations to Congressman Bost. Thank you very much for taking this fight. And let's see how things change in Illinois. Now, I'd like to check in with that silver vibe once again. Check it out. Silver prices surged to above $93 an ounce for the first time in history. In Shanghai, they were trading at like $115 an ounce. Things are very, very volatile in a positive way with silver. Remember what we talked about yesterday about Secretary Bessent having secret meetings, talking with interested parties on silver. We have the silver futures contracts, which are now priced directly proportional to the value of the contract. And this is super big. The U.S. Treasury, the U.S. Mint, rather, which is under the purview of the U.S. Treasury, has just suspended all sales of silver products. They sent this email out earlier today. Dear valued customer, to maintain transparency and a positive customer experience, we are reaching out to share an important update. Due to metals cost, pricing adjustments are being evaluated across all numismatic products. In addition, the rapidly rising silver prices may result in silver numismatic products being temporarily removed from sale while pricing is updated. We are working expeditiously to update pricing in order to maintain product availability. However, we wanted to communicate in advance in case you notice changes on the United States Mint website. Once pricing has been updated, we will notify you. For the most current pricing and availability information, please visit our product schedule. Subscriptions are subject to pricing adjustments. Please review your active subscriptions and payment methods as needed. Thank you for your continued support of the United States Mint and its products. The reason they had to take all of the silver products down is because the price is going up so quickly that they literally can't update the website fast enough. So right now, you can go to the United States Mint website, and you will find that literally everything is unavailable. You can't get anything from the current year. You can't get anything from past years. Now, you can go to places like JM Bullion or SD Bullion, any of the big online retailers, and they'll have that stuff. Of course, it'll only be what is currently in their inventory. anything that they would need to order to send you from the U.S. Mint is not going to be available. You can go to your local silver dealer, a pawn shop, or any other precious metals location. You can buy silver from a friend, but you're not going to be able to get any of the numismatics that you would normally be able to get through the U.S. Mint. This, I think, is just pushing us that much closer to a possible revaluation of the U.S. currency, pegging it to silver, gold, and even copper is getting more valuable. Copper value is going up, platinum, palladium, everything is to the moon. So this is big, 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 big for all of the silver bugs out there. Very, very cool. Glad to finally see it after all these years. No thanks, Joe says, happy hump day, Lisa and Zach. Looking forward to your reporting today. God bless you. Please stay safe. You do the same, my friend. Trump Red Pill 1, thank you for the cookie. And Serpentine says, one day erection and paper ballots only. Yes, I am with you. All right, you guys. Now, here is two sound bites that I wanted to get to yesterday, but I was unable to because of how long we went. But there was a case before SCOTUS yesterday that they were hearing in regards to boys playing on girls' sports, essentially. These were opening arguments that were held yesterday on whether or not laws in Idaho and West Virginia, which explicitly ban biological males from playing in girls' and women's sports, violate the Constitution's guarantee of equal protection and the law known as Title IX. So you have two biological males, Lindsay Hecox. Oh, my God, that cannot be a real name. Lindsay Hecox of Idaho and Becky Pepper Jackson of West Virginia. I can't. What the hell? So he's just getting ready to go into porn, I guess. They both sued their respective states, and they claim, yes, it's a poor name, Vice. Oh, my God. They claim that discrimination based on sex and transgender status. Now, that will come back to haunt them. They claim the state's laws ban every transgender female from school sports and treat them worse than any others. Well, you know, maybe there's a little bit of animosity because they are a man trying to play in a woman's sport. I mean, I've seen some horrific things. We covered it here on the show before. There was a young girl who was going to be a pro volleyball player. She had a scholarship all set up. And this young man who was playing as a woman spiked her right in the face, gave her a traumatic brain injury. And now this girl can't do anything at all. She's disabled for the rest of her life. So it's not really true, though, that they are being treated worse than other people or they're being discriminated against. West Virginia and Idaho are simply relying on nature. They're relying on science to ensure that there is an actual fairness on the playing field between the rights of both trans athletes and female athletes. There was this one point during the arguments where Ketanji Brown Jackson, the resident, I guess, you know, Mensa member, had accidentally invented a new word to describe actual girls, which has, of course, invited people to mock her on social media. This is the same woman who said that she was not a biologist, and so she couldn't answer the question of what exactly a woman was when she was being considered for the Senate confirmation process. Take a listen if you don't remember.
You have the overarching classification, you know, everybody has to be, play on the team that is the same as their sex at birth. But then you have a gender identity definition that is operating within that, meaning a distinction, meaning that for cisgender girls, they can play consistent with their gender identity. For transgender girls, they can't.
So I think that, okay, so as to the part about your ability to pass over from boy to girl,
yes,
you can go from one way but not the other. I want to be clear that BPJ is not challenging that specific classification. I think that's important to start with. But I think, if anything, that's useful evidence as to the lack of a transgender-based discrimination, because if the legislature were just sort of unsettled by the notion of transgender athletes, I think the answer would have been to then bar them from passing over anyone consistent with their gender.
I appreciate that. I guess I was getting at the what I understood the Chief Justice to be trying to discuss, which was this notion that this is really just about the definition of we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only people who were girl assigned at birth qualify.
And
that's exactly how it should be. But in that sort of brain rot that she spit out there, she talked about cisgender girls, which I guess would be girls who are born with red hair. But that's obviously not what she meant. A lot of people were making fun of her, as they should. Here we go. My daughter is cisgender. It's sometimes been a struggle, but we've gotten through it. But an even better one was when a lawyer for the ACLU was being questioned by Justice Alito. So you've got the two cases, Little versus Hecox from Idaho, and West Virginia versus BPJ, which is Becky Pepper Jackson from West Virginia. The West Virginia case is a 15-year-old high school student who goes by Becky. They have been on hormone therapy, and they want to compete in track and field. So at one point during this pro-trans girls and boys locker room argument, the lawyer for the ACLU, whose name is Kathleen Hartnett, was asked by Justice Samuel Alito to define a man, a boy, a woman, or a girl. Now, Hartnett could obviously not do that based upon her position that all of these things don't really exist. She kind of started to panic because Alito had basically set a trap for her. And the trap is because of the law under which she is arguing that Becky Pepper, BPJ, whatever the name is, that Becky should have equal protection. So Hartnett panics and says that they don't have a definition. Let me go ahead and play this clip for you because Justice Alito totally got exactly what he wanted.
Is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause?
Let me turn this up just a little bit. Okay. If it is necessary under Equal Protection Clause to have protection for a specified group, you must be able to define that group. Alito knows that. Hartnett actually knows that as well, which is why she freaks out. Also, thank you so much to Frodo Baggins for the Bitcoin donation over on Rumble Wallet.
Is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition? For equal protection purposes, what does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court. And we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute.
Alito's right. You cannot argue that there is some type of discrimination based on sex if you cannot define what that sex is. So I don't think these individuals are going to be successful because it didn't feel like the justices that were asking the questions yesterday successfully were going to vote in favor of them. This is going to be a good decision, once again, just like the decision that was just handed down in the election case. So we also very, very cool, had the FBI raid the home of a reporter for the Washington Post who has called themselves like the Pentagon Whisperer or something like that. This is a Post reporter who had knowingly obtained classified and illegally leaked information from a contractor at the Pentagon. So the feds earlier today execute the search warrant at the home in Alexandria, Virginia, of WAPO reporter Hannah Nathanson. Hannah was raided as part of an investigation into a Maryland system administrator who, up until that point, had held top secret security clearance. Now, the FBI seized Nathanson's cell phone, 2 laptops. There was a personal and a work-related one, and also a Garmin watch, I would assume, so that they could line up the movements of this leaker with Nathanson. They could probably track the GPS location of the Garmin watch and then see that they had been in the same place at the same time. And that, of course, would coincide with the leaking of this information that Nathanson was never allowed to hold. The only thing is, Nathanson is, at least at this time, not the subject of this investigation. Nathanson was home at the time of the raid. I would imagine it happened pretty early in the morning. The contractor who stashed these classified documents held them at his home. His name is Aurelio Perez Lugones, and he is currently in jail. FBI agents reportedly found classified intelligence reports in Perez Lugones' lunchbox and in his basement. Now, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi on X said that the search was conducted at the request of the Pentagon. Bondi also said the Trump administration will not tolerate any leaks. She said this past week, at the request of the Department of War, the Department of Justice, and the FBI executed a search warrant at the home of Washington Post journalist who was obtaining and reporting classified and illegally leaked information from a Pentagon contractor. That leaker is currently behind bars. I am proud to work alongside Secretary Hegseth on this effort. The Trump administration will not tolerate illegal leaks of classified information that, when reported, pose a grave risk to our nation's national security and the brave men and women who are serving in our country. Kash Patel also commented on X. This morning, the FBI and partners executed a search warrant on an individual at the Washington Post who was found to allegedly be obtaining and reporting classified, sensitive military information from a government contractor, endangering our warfighters and compromising America's national security. The alleged leaker was arrested this week and is also in custody. As this is an ongoing investigation, we will have no further comment. Now, we learn a little bit more by stepping over to Julie Kelly's account, where the FBI raided the home of Nathanson. She had been suspected to be unauthorized handling and sharing of classified information. She and the leaker were doing this through Signal, and there is likely going to be more coming for Miss Nathanson because she does not hold a security clearance. Now, she was not shy about the fact that there was at least one or more people who were leaking to her. She was reporting on this stuff for at least a year, and she billed herself as a portal for complaints that federal workers could come to her, and then they could be released through the Washington Post. Now, in 2025, in December, she posted a column and revealed that she had clearly accepted information she knew she was not supposed to have, and the senders had also acknowledged to her that what they were giving her was technically going to be illegal. Now, these columns that Hannah Nathanson was writing and the stuff that people were leaking to her were meant to be damaging to the Trump administration. You can see here, people inside government agencies weren't supposed to tell me any of that, I said, but they did. I read him some of their messages explaining why they helped. I never thought I'd be leaking info like this, a Justice Department staffer wrote. I've always felt a sense of duty to do what's right for the country and citizens. I believe in transparency. Somebody else at Health and Human Services also leaked to her. I still wake up to between 30 and 100 Signal notifications. Some become stories. Trump's proposed foreign aid plan included a surprising $50 million for Greenland's polar bears amid the buildup of American forces in the Caribbean. The Venezuelan president asked for Russian missiles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Hannah had essentially made a career out of leaking this stuff. Somebody else at the Defense Department, perhaps the man that was recently arrested, said, I understand the risks, but getting the truth and facts out is so much more important. She's also got people in the Army leaking to her. I am sharing this with you because the public needs to know the real-world consequences of this decision. I urge you to cover the story before it's too late. Here, she posts some of the Signal messages themselves. DOJ is at DHS looking at FEMA and CISA. That's all I can tell you. Best of luck deleting this conversation. That conversation is still going to be there. I had no intention of leaving federal service before the election, but I'm currently applying desperately in an effort to get back into the private sector. Everything I liked about this job, telework, stability, serving the greater good, was taken from me. Sounds like a lefty. Now, in addition to that, President Trump also spoke about this as he was signing a brand new, I believe it was a revision to a law or perhaps an executive order bringing whole milk back into schools. Whole milk is the only milk you should be drinking, whether it's raw or homogenized. The best thing you can drink is going to be whole milk, and raw, obviously, if you can get it. President Trump said that the man who was leaking to this WAPO reporter had actually been leaking information about the Venezuela operations before they went on. Take a listen.
Another piece of information that I think is very important is the leaker has been found and is in jail right now. And that's the leaker on Venezuela. They had a very bad leaker. So there could be some others, and we'll let you know about that. We're out on their trail. But the leaker has been found, and the leaker's in jail. And will probably be in jail for a long time. Let's see what happens. So we'll let you know. We'll keep you apprised as to what's going to happen with that. And I want to thank all of the... Another piece of information that I think is very important is the leaker has been found.
So, and clearly, based upon the number of conversations Hannah had been having with people inside the government and a variety of different agencies, there's a lot more people that are likely to be rounded up in this. And now that the government has all of her electronic devices, these leakers are not going to have any way to get in touch with her. And if she did not delete those messages securely, those people will be found, and likely we're going to be hearing about it in the very near future. Also, Melonrine says it's so wild this is even an argument before the courts. I can only imagine you're talking about the Title IX Supreme Court case. Yes, it is wild. Now, also yesterday, President Trump flipped off a heckler who shouted at him as he was visiting the Ford F-150 plant in Dearborn, Michigan. Shortly after that, he went to make remarks at the Detroit Economic Club. This is the Ford plant that is building the Ford F-150 in Michigan, and overwhelmingly most of the people who were there were very happy that President Trump was there. President Trump has single-handedly revived the American automobile industry. There is still a lot more happening in terms of investment and the rebuilding of infrastructure. New plants are going in. Many thousands of jobs are being created. However, when President Trump visited this plant, a heckler appeared to shout out, "Pedophile protector." Well, President Trump responded, as you might expect he would. He flipped the guy the bird and told him to F off, which is pretty based. Hold on just a second and we'll watch the video. Oh, Lisa, it's that guy, Dr. Juan. He said F you twice. Hannah Natanson, the reporter for the Washington Post. That's who I was talking about in that last segment. He tells the guy to F off and gives him the finger. Now, White House spokesman Stephen Chung said a lunatic was screaming wildly and stating expletives in a fit of rage, and the president gave an appropriate and unambiguous response. I would absolutely say that that was appropriate and it was unambiguous. F you, that guy obviously doesn't deserve to work at Ford any longer. And wouldn't you know, he's now suspended. So his job is in jeopardy. I would have to believe that this suspension is obviously because of an investigation. That investigation will lead to him getting fired. And he has already started giving interviews. His name is TJ Sabula, and he said he has no regrets heckling the president in his place of employment. As far as calling him out, definitely no regrets whatsoever, he told the Washington Post. He estimated he was standing about 60 feet away and that President Trump could hear him very clearly. He said he is concerned about the future of his job, and he is now claiming that he is being targeted for political retribution. I have to just say, if I was working at any company and the president of the United States, the one man who had essentially saved my job and made it possible for many other people in my community to come to work at the same location, ensuring that American automobile manufacturing is going to exist for perhaps generations to come, and I told them to F off, I would expect to get fired. In fact, I don't care if it's the president or anybody else. If they're a visitor, a guest at my place of employment, and my employer, the owner of the freaking company, is standing right there, and I tell the owner's guest to F off, I would expect to get fired. Now, here's the part that kind of pisses me off. Of course, somebody put together a GoFundMe for him. And as of this morning, it was at $367,680. Now, I'm going to refresh it, and we're going to see how much it's gone up in the last several hours. It's now at $465,051. This guy is almost, and they raised the goal from $250,000 to $800,000. Just like the wife or the widow of Renee Nicole Good, this guy's probably going to end up a millionaire because he's a piece of shit. You know, I mean, it's absolutely insane to me. Absolutely insane. But, you know, I mean, this is par for the course. We've seen this a lot with people who act poorly on the left. I'm glad that recently some people who did not deserve the way that they were treated, they have also gotten support from people on the right, but it doesn't happen as often. And, you know, I mean, you've got a couple of people who are doing high-level donations. Jim and Stacy Cornett, they donated $5,000. Let's see. 20,000 people have donated altogether. Most of them, you know, 10, 25 bucks, $5. That $5,000 donation appears to be an anomaly. But you've got people, leftists from all over the country, that are donating to this guy, and he's probably going to be a millionaire by the end of it. Anyways. Now, we also had the governments of both Denmark and Greenland visit the White House earlier today because talks are ongoing for the United States of America to acquire Greenland. Apparently, the offer that President Trump has given to Greenland is more than the gross domestic product of Greenland for a single year. It's actually, I'm sorry, it's more than the GDP of Denmark, which is the country that owns Greenland. So it is many factors above whatever Greenland makes because it's, you know, there isn't all that many people there and they haven't really developed the economy or the natural resources. But yeah, so it was a friendly visit. Of course, this is something that I expected. President Trump has always started the negotiation process in a sort of a defensive posture, or maybe an offensive posture, putting them on the defense and forcing them to come to the table. It's like, you know, every time he's like, guess what? I'm going to get what I want. And then these people have to come to the table and they say, well, hold on just a second. Maybe not. But it seems to be a fairly productive meeting. Now, President Trump, after the meeting, put out this Truth Social post telling NATO that they need to get behind the acquisition of Greenland. He said the United States needs Greenland for the purpose of national security. It is vital for the Golden Dome that we are building. And remember, I told you the other day about the trajectory of global ICBMs and why Greenland would be so key in ensuring that nothing could get to the United States of America if it's coming from the other side of the world. NATO should be leading the way for us to get it. If we don't, Russia or China will, and that's not going to happen. Militarily, without the vast power of the United States, much of which I built during my first term, and now bringing to a new and even higher level, NATO would not be an effective force or deterrent, not even close. They know that, and so do I. NATO becomes far more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of the United States. Anything less than that is unacceptable. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, after the meeting, we had the Danish foreign minister speaking to reporters outside the White House, and he says that the United States and Denmark are committed to finding a common way forward with regards to the acquisition of Greenland by the United States of America. Looks like we are one step closer to either having a new territory or having the 51st state. Interesting.
And we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk. We have decided to form a high-level working group to explore if we can find a common way forward. The group, in our view, should focus on how to address the American security concerns, while at the same time respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. We expect that such a group will meet for a first time within a matter of weeks. And then I will pass the floor to my colleague from Greenland, Vivian Mosfeld.
So the door is open to negotiations. And now that that door has been opened, the United States of America, Greenland, and Denmark are going to have an ongoing series of meetings to determine what fashion we're going to go forward in. Now, of course, the United States position was that we just want it, give it to us. And it sounds like Denmark is saying they're not ready to do that just yet. However, I think President Trump makes a fairly compelling argument in terms of global security and more specifically security for the United States of America. But there will be some positive benefits for the NATO-aligned nations if the United States is given the green light, the green land, the green light in the green land, to take possession of Greenland. We already have plenty of military bases there. After World War II, we began setting up bases there, and we've been there the entire time. But now, if the United States controls Greenland unambiguously, then we will also have access to every other aspect of it, and including those natural resources. But more specifically, we'll have the right to develop it in a military sense to ensure that the United States remains as dominant as we possibly can. So I think this is going to happen, guys. I mean, it seems to me like it's a foregone conclusion. Sherry K47 says, Zach, in reference to these GoFundMe funders of the loony left, and in the last days, what is good will be called bad, and what is bad will be called good. Isaiah 5:20. You are absolutely correct. Oh, it reminds me of the fact that when I was a kid, you know, people wanted to be doctors, lawyers, stockbrokers, and now kids grow up and they want to be Instagram models and OnlyFans influencers. It's really, really sad. And people are being, you know, I mean, they're being driven to do that, you know, in one respect, because it's difficult to make a living doing normal stuff nowadays. And then in another respect, people are just being told that, you know, the only path forward is to make as much money as possible. And if you have to sell your body to do it, well, then that's totally cool, dude. All right. Now, I mentioned yesterday that the Oversight Committee was going to have to show the size of their balls if the United States of America was going to take them seriously. Because if Bill and Hillary Clinton are not treated with the same level of accountability and, frankly, respect that Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon were treated with, then a subpoena to Congress means absolutely nothing. Unsurprisingly, Hillary Clinton didn't show up today, just like her husband Bill didn't show up yesterday. So James Comer and the Oversight Committee, Republicans and Democrats, are moving forward to hold them both in contempt of Congress. Take a listen from his announcement earlier today after Hillary Clinton's chair remained empty long enough for them to call it.
We're going to hold both Clintons in criminal contempt of Congress. We believe that because this subpoena was issued in a bipartisan fashion, the Democrats acted the day that the subpoenas were voted on in the subcommittee like they wanted the Clintons to come because they at that time, if you go back, they were wanting me to subpoena the estate, which I did. We subpoenaed the estate and got all the documents, everything. That was what the victims asked. That's what the Democrats asked. I think that's what the American people wanted. We subpoenaed the estate, got 100% of the documents. I have subpoenaed the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi for the documents, which they are producing. Now, we don't like the speed. We all wish the documents would come in quicker, but we've gotten tens of thousands of pages of documents from the Department of Justice. And remember, they made a big document drop, and the Democrats cried foul because they said they didn't.
Demanded redactions.
Right, they wanted more redactions. So they're double and triple checking this. And the Department of Justice is complying with our lawful subpoena. The estate complied with our lawful subpoena. Bill Barr, Alex Acosta came in and were deposed because of our lawful subpoena. This same lawful subpoena was issued to the Clintons, and they defied it. And you know, Bill Clinton's trying to play the victim card here. Only Bill Clinton could try to triangulate something that's happened, a terrible atrocity to these survivors that have had to endure who knows what from Epstein and Maxwell. So
and their associates.
So we're trying to get answers to the American people. We're serious about it. Once again, not a single Democrat showed up. You know how many depositions we've done? There's always a Democrat here. The former President of the United States, former Secretary of State, neither one of them, not a single Democrat here. So I think the questions that should be asked to the Democrats on the committee are do you still support hearing from the Clintons? Because, you know, some have asked what's Hillary got to do with anything. Well, Jeffrey Epstein claimed, and I don't know if this is true or not, because I think a lot of what Jeffrey Epstein said was just not true. But he has said that he helped set up the Clinton Foundation. There are records that would imply that Epstein helped raise money for the Clinton Foundation.
Yes.
And the last thing, we are going to depose Maxwell. As you know, I've subpoenaed Maxwell. We have, and her lawyers asked us to wait till the Supreme Court or the court ruled on her appeal. Then the lawyer said she was going to plead the fifth. We are going to depose Maxwell.
Well, at this point, there's no reason for her to plead the fifth because all of her appeals have been exhausted. I want to say thank you one more time to Frodo Baggins for that donation over there through Rumble Wallet on Rumble. Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. You know, you guys, they can cancel your accounts. They can freeze your cards. They can decide what you're allowed to say, what you're allowed to buy, who you're allowed to support. Big banks and financial institutions have got total control over your money, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. So, introducing Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet that's built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you can control your own money. No banks, no government, no tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin and keep it all in one secure place. No permissions necessary, no middlemen to siphon off the top, and no cancel button to stop you from doing it. And when they want to support, and when you rather want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use that Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators like myself securely, instantly, and without any interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently, yours to protect for your future, yours to protect for your family. And when the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, and true financial freedom. You can use the QR code or head on over to wallet.rumble.com or just go to the App Store on your phone. Thank you very much once again to Rumble for putting that together. Really do appreciate it. All right, so considering that they didn't show up, you got to believe, of course, that people are going to have a lot of thoughts about that. And Tim Burchett agrees with me with the fact that Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon were imprisoned for not showing up for their subpoenas. And Tim Burchett was part of a group of members of the House who were speaking to the press when it became obvious Hillary Clinton was not going to show up. Of course, everybody knew she wasn't going to show up, but they had to give her the opportunity before they could go through the motions of holding both she and Bill in contempt. Now, Tim said that when he mentions the way that Peter and Steve were treated, everybody put their cameras down. It was like suddenly the press wasn't interested.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett just left they subpoenaed Bill and Hillary Clinton on the Epstein situation. Of course, they no-showed. My buddy Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro didn't show up, and they got sent to prison. That's a double standard. And I'll tell you, the bigger double standard is when I mentioned that in the press conference. I wish we'd had it on film, but the press just put their cameras down immediately when I said that. I looked across the front row, 3 or 4 of them, right like that. It's these cards are very much stacked against us and justice. And the Clintons, of course, they thumb their nose at justice because they're allowed to. They've been allowed to since they were in Arkansas, and they're going to continue to do it. And it's really a shame that that's the pinnacle of success for the Democrat Party, really, is that bunch. But that's what we're dealing with. And of course, they had a paid agitator out there yelling at us during this thing and during the press conference, and just pathetic, really. But that's where the left is right now.
It is pathetic, but it is totally understandable given everything we've been shown. Now, what was surprising is that Democrat Representative Ted Lieu, was questioned about whether or not it is acceptable for Bill and Hillary Clinton to be treated differently than Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. And he seems to indicate that Bill and Hillary Clinton should get the exact same treatment. Take a listen.
Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro were arrested for failing to comply with subpoenas that were issued by Congress regarding January 6th. Do you think now that the Clintons are refusing to show up for their subpoenas, the same should be had for them?
Everyone should comply with the congressional subpoena.
So should they be arrested, the Clintons?
Everyone should comply with the congressional subpoena, and I'll leave it up to the enforcement of that subpoena to what we have in law right now, which is the Department of Justice. So that's my position. Everyone should comply with the congressional subpoena.
Thank you. Steve Bannon.
Everyone should supply with that congressional subpoena. The Department of Justice is now going to take over. And Bill and Hillary Clinton, in the perfect world, will be arrested. It seems to me like the Oversight Committee is indicating that that's the direction that they're going to take. I have no reason to think that the Department of Justice will not hand down the exact same treatment that Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro got. They better do it, because, again, if they don't, none of this means anything. All right, so House Oversight has moved to hold the Clintons in contempt, and this no-show leaves us no choice but to do it. Now, both Bill and Hillary Clinton's depositions were scheduled to be held. The cameras were set up. Their placards were there, and they opened each of these depositions with an introduction and then basically said that neither of them have shown up. Contempt is now going to take place. The only logical next step is that Bill and Hillary will be arrested. Hopefully, we'll hear something about their passports being revoked first so that they can't rush off to some far-flung exotic location that doesn't have extradition. Too Big for Bike says, put Hillary in Epstein's cell. It's not like she doesn't know how to get there. Keck. Absolutely. I love it. Joe says, don't hold your breath. Joe, I truly do believe that 2026 is going to be the year of accountability. And if this doesn't happen, again, nobody will take Congress seriously. No one will have any reason to show up for a subpoena at any point in the future. This has to be done. There is no way forward without this exact level of accountability that we're given to Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. And what's different about Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro is that they had executive privilege. They were not compellable to come forward and testify. It was completely illegal for them to be forced into that position. And the reason they did not speak up is because they had a cogent legal argument. With Bill and Hillary Clinton, their legal argument appears to be, we don't feel like it. So there is no way for them to justify this or to argue as to why they're not doing it. They're essentially saying that it's a form of protest. Okay, well, the next logical step is to put them in jail. All right, now, we also have another situation that was just thrown onto the radar. Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, announced the sentencing of a woman, I think it's a transgender person, actually, a person who was the founder of a nonprofit called Casa Ruby. This individual has been sentenced to 33 months in prison, and they must repay nearly $1 million in stolen funds. Let's hear Judge Jeanine tell us the details of the case.
Hi, everyone. It's Judge Jeanine. Today, my prosecutors got a conviction and a sentence of 33 months for Ruby Jane Corrado, who created the nonprofit Casa Ruby that's supposed to benefit LGBTQ at-risk community youth in the district. Unfortunately, she decided that she would take over $950,000 from a COVID relief program and economic loss program, and she pocketed that money for herself. She then fled to El Salvador. We were able to get her back from El Salvador as a result of the work of the Washington field office of the FBI. She is now required to pay back that almost $1 million, and she's going to serve 33 months in prison. I think this should be a message, a twofold message. Number one, we are going to protect the LGBTQ community, especially the at-risk youth. And number two, if you steal money from the government, you're going
to go to prison, essentially. Now, I wonder if the same will happen to this nonprofit in San Francisco. So would you believe that in San Francisco, there's an NGO called Community Forward SF. What they do is hand out free shots of liquor to homeless people. Now, over the course that they've been open, 5 years, they've gotten $16 million per year in public funding, taxpayer dollars going into their coffers. That's $80 million over the course of 5 years. And you would think with all of the homeless and the drunks in San Francisco, they would have plenty of opportunity to pass out shots of liquor. But during the course of that 5 years, they have only served 55 clients. 55 clients over 5 years. That is absolutely insane.
Let's talk about the homelessness, because he has admitted that $24 billion in homeless money over the years has disappeared and it was spent, but nobody knows what it was spent on and if it did any good. And that's what this one fascinated me, because he actually admitted it.
Yeah, well, he only admitted to $24 billion. The state legislative analyst upped it to $37 billion. And that money disappeared into the black hole of newly created nonprofits and NGOs, non-governmental organizations. And those people hired, friends and family, and the CEO was making $250 a year, and they just would spend the money as fast as humanly possible. I did an article that posted today just highlighting one of these organizations in San Francisco, which is supposed to be providing free shots of alcohol to homeless alcoholics. And in 5 years, at $16 million a year, they've served 55 clients.
No, you're making that up. Wait, this is tax money, and it buys free shots of booze to street drunks.
Yes, and it's.
So where did all that money go? I can tell you exactly where it went. It went into the pockets of the executives running the NGO, and then it also filtered back into the politicians that were in charge of making sure this NGO and so many others received the many millions of taxpayer dollars every single year. 55 drunks given free booze to the tune of $16 million a year. I could have retired after 1 year, personally. But no, they have to keep it going. That is absolutely insane to me. Now, let's talk about Elissa Slotkin. She is currently being investigated by federal prosecutors. Why? Because she and the others in the Seditious Six urged the members of the military to defy President Trump. Now, the reason we know Elissa Slotkin is being investigated by federal prosecutors is because she's come out to say that she's being investigated. So it doesn't mean that the others aren't already being investigated as well. We know that Mark Kelly has had his action by the Department of War taken, and there is an ongoing investigation. But in case you forget, back in November, Senators Elissa Slotkin and Mark Kelly, Democrat reps Maggie Goodlander, Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, and Chrissy Houlihan all made a video and directed it at the members of the military and said, you can refuse illegal orders. And then they said, you must refuse illegal orders. And of course, Elissa Slotkin, in her Stasi-style spy leather jacket, opened the video very intentionally. She opened the video because as a, quote, former CIA agent or analyst or employee, I don't remember exactly what her job was, but she opens the video because, of course, she is speaking to the Central Intelligence Agency. And the Central Intelligence Agency is the fifth column within the United States. They are the backbone of the deep state within the American bureaucracy. She was also the ringleader. She allegedly urged U.S. service members to do this, and she was instrumental in making sure that this video was made in the first place.
I'm Senator Elissa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former
ain't no more.
CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
So, of course, there is already a process designed through JAG which allows orders to be questioned and for people to report if they are given illegal orders. But what these people know is that by publishing this message directly to the members of the intelligence community and the armed forces, they are sowing doubt and suggesting that an insurrection should take place. Sedition should take place. President Trump reacted very quickly and said that this was seditious behavior. And as you know, sedition is punishable by death. Now, whether or not sedition was the actual crime here, I can tell you that they did violate 18 U.S.C. 2387, which is activities affecting the armed forces, the morale of the armed forces. So last week, we had Pete Hegseth censure Democrat Senator Mark Kelly. They cut his military rank and pension. New York Times is reporting that U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro is spearheading the investigation into Slotkin. I would assume that since Slotkin, being a former Central Intelligence agent and probably still a Central Intelligence agent, also on the in the Senate, which has more power than the House, they went after the two senators first, and the investigations into the members of the House are going to come next. Now, Slotkin, after reading this article by the New York Times, lashed out and said, facts matter little, but the threats matter quite a bit. The threat of legal action, the threat to your family, the threat to your staff, the threat to you. You broke the law, Senator Slotkin. In the same way that Bill and Hillary Clinton broke the law when they refused to comply with a congressional subpoena. In the same way that all of these fraudsters have broken the law. In the same way that illegal aliens have broken the law. According to Democrats, the only time that legal action for a law broken, the only time that is okay, the only time that is permissible is when it happens to somebody like me, or when it happens to somebody like you, or when it happens to President Trump. When it happens to them, it's always some type of political threat. It's just some type of scare tactic. Oh, it's designed to silence me. Oh, it's political retribution. Well, she says she's learned that federal prosecutors are investigating her after she took part in that video. She said in an interview on Monday with The Times that she found out about the inquiry from the office of Jeanine Pirro, and an email was sent to the Senate's Sergeant at Arms, and Ms. Pirro's office requested an interview with the senator or her private counsel. A spokesman for Ms. Pirro's office, of course, declined to confirm or deny any investigation. They're not going to mention it until they're ready to bring charges. And it's unclear exactly what officials have identified as a possible crime. I think I can think of a couple of them, but we know that President Trump directed them specifically to look at sedition. However, these people, let me just pull up the law so you guys can see it, because I'm sure you'll agree with me. We've looked at this before. I think that this is unimpeachable right here. Whoever with intent to interfere with, impair, or influence the loyalty, morale, or discipline within the military or naval forces of the United States advises, counsels, urges, or in any manner causes or attempts to cause insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty by any member of the military or naval forces of the United States, or distributes or attempts to distribute any written or printed matter which advises, counsels, or urges insubordination, loyalty, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty by any member of the military or naval forces of the United States. They should probably update that to include video. Shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both, and shall be ineligible for employment by the United States or any department or agency thereof for the next 5 years following this conviction. For the purposes of this section, they then go on to describe what the armed forces are. That's, of course, going to be the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, the Navy Reserve, Marine Corps Reserve, Coast Guard Reserve, and when any merchant vessel is commissioned in the Navy or in the service of the Army or the Navy, that includes the master officers and crew of such a vessel. So this would be very easy for them to prove. Unfortunately, the only problem that we have is that this would probably have to be brought inside the District of Columbia. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to the investigation, looking forward to a review of their communications and their phones. Perhaps during the course of that, they may determine that additional crimes were committed that are worthy of indictment. We'll have to see. Now, take a look at this. This was a shocking, shocking statement that was made by the president of Egypt. He was on stage at an event next to the current president of Somalia. And he basically warned the people of Egypt against using Somalia as an example of what to emulate, basically calling them a failed state. So let me pull this up. I believe it's going to be in Egyptian. They have the translation down below. So he says, once again, I welcome you, Mr. President. I wish you success. And God willing, we see Somalia actually here. I'd like to send a message to the Egyptian people. Forgive me, I'll take advantage of this opportunity. Somalia's troubles began in the year of 1990 or 91. And since 91 to this day, problems and challenges continued. That ravaged the state's capabilities for more than 30 years. More than 30 years. And whenever we always talk and say to people in countries, take care of your countries, maintain your stability, and preserve your countries. Any challenge can be faced as long as the state remains stable and secure. As long as the state remains stable and secure, when countries enter a state of instability, they enter but do not return easily. They do not return easily. It takes 20 years, 30 years. I don't know if this will upset my brother, the president, but I say it to the Egyptian people. Somalia has an economy of $7 billion with a population of 25 million. It may be a little more than that, but imagine if from 1990 till today, if Somalian economy increased by $1 billion annually, where its economy would be today. These are opportunities that the Somalian people lost. And they now have to start from zero, building, restoring, and constructing. These words are for the Egyptian people. Cautious tale. You don't want to be like Somalia. So rather than rebuild their country, rather than invest in ensuring that their country had the stability necessary to increase that gross domestic product, instead of making sure that the people of their nation had a comfortable and healthy home life, they decided to come to the United States of effing America and to fraudulently obtain the wealth that they should have obtained of their own hard work back home. Now, we've heard about the many millions of dollars going through the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. Well, in a Somalian fraudster traveling from Ohio to Minnesota was just nabbed trying to transport $130 million. And he was heading from Ohio to Minnesota with the intention of flying out of the United States. Just last week, $700 million was being flown out of Minnesota in suitcases. They were going to Amsterdam and Dubai. And now the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, announced they tracked $136 million being moved from Columbus to MSP on its way overseas, all of it being done by Somalians. And I'm sure you all remember, Ohio has the second largest population of Somalians in the United States outside of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Take a listen to John Solomon discussing this, because as a result, things are about to change.
Meanwhile, we're seeing the flow of money. It wasn't just Minnesota. So last week we talked about this, Steve. $700 million in suitcases flies out of Minnesota, often headed to either Amsterdam or Amsterdam to Dubai. It was a foreign ATM machine moving money out of the United States from the Somali community. We now know that this money was being staged in multiple locations. This morning, the Transportation Security Administration confirming they tracked $136 million from Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio has the second largest Somali population after Minneapolis. The money is in suitcases in Columbus. It flies to Minnesota. It goes to Minneapolis, then the couriers in Minneapolis pick up that money, combine it with the money in Minnesota, and take it overseas. Now, why are we have banks, we have remittance centers. Why would the Somalis be doing all of this in suitcases, keeping it off the books and out of the radar? Why wasn't the Biden administration stopping it or raising questions about it? And where was that money ultimately going? Was it going to Al-Shabaab? Was it coming back into the United States in political donations? Was it just moving money out to help poor Somalis in their country? We're just starting to get a look at that. But this was
So, yes, this was sophisticated. This was ongoing. This was huge during the Biden administration. Once we began to unravel all of this Somali fraud, now in the second Trump administration, that spigot has been turned off. Now, President Trump commented about this on Truth Social as well. He says they should be thrown out of the USA. Get it done now. That includes their loser rep Omar, who married her brother. Gross. President DJT. Now, as a result of this, ICE agents have now moved into the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. They are there for an unscheduled operation where they're going to be working for at least the next 3 weeks. They're going to be spending their time there checking and verifying documents of both customers, people who are flying in and out of the airport, as well as the employees of the MSP airport. Now, there was an employee who spoke with Fox News about this, and they shared a memo which details the plans, and that includes patrolling jet bridges. So they're going to be all over the airport, and they're going to be checking to see if you've got a Somali with a very heavy suitcase. They're going to need to take a look at it. Now, ICE, for their part, is not commenting on this because they didn't even want to tell anybody. They also did not tell anyone at the airport or offer them the ability to take part in this operation. They basically sent the memo and said, guess what? We're at the front door. Now, they're saying it may be easier to present your documentation showing you have lawful status in the United States to avoid being placed in detention erroneously. If you do have lawful status in the country, this is from an immigration attorney. However, there's going to be a lot of people who don't have lawful status. And if it turns out that people are trying to sneak out with money, all of that money is going to be seized. $136 million. Let's get as much of that money from these Somalis as possible. We know that all of it is fraudulent. If it wasn't fraudulent, then there are other legal ways to move it around. They're trying to take it out of this country in their suitcases because they know that they can't legally move it. Now, real quick, before we continue, one more message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, they can freeze your accounts. They can take your suitcase with money in it. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks do not protect you. They control you. And that's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing the Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can actually own Tether Gold, which is real gold on the blockchain. With Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars. Each one is fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It's not paper gold. It isn't an IOU. It is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. So you can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That is pretty powerful. When you support creators on Rumble, you can also tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, which is peer-to-peer and outside the banking system. There's no permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. So once again, go to wallet.rumble.com, use that QR code on screen, or use the App Store on your device. Also, Too Big for Bike says, oh, I already read that one. Sorry about that. Good Dog 45, thank you for the shades. Cowbell, thank you for the gold pills. Filter Dog says, I just use a leather wallet. Darla says, the leftist liberal lunatic fringe would love nothing better than to erase men altogether, especially white men. These people are trying to depopulate at every turn. Sad. It is very, very sad. But the good news is the people that want to do that are not the ones that are having kids. That's why sane people need to have as many children as possible. I am past my prime, you guys. I'm not having any more kids. But I know that there are people out there who are in a position to have children, and I encourage you to do so. Thank you very much for that, Darla. All right, now, sticking with Minnesota, articles of impeachment have officially been filed against Governor Tim Walz in the Minnesota State House. Timothy J. Walz has engaged in corrupt conduct in office by violating his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the laws of the state. Accountability is coming. So Tim Walz may not make it through the end of his term, and now that he has dropped out of the race for governor, I would expect them to move very quickly on this impeachment. It's going to be very difficult to argue against kicking Tim Walz out of office because he has admitted on more than one occasion that they've been tracking this fraud for several years, since at least 2019. They've essentially done nothing about it. They've been warned at many different junctures about the fact that the fraud is taking place. Whistleblowers have come forward. They have actually been retaliated against. And yesterday it was announced by Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, that they have set up a new whistleblower portal. Now, they've had a number of whistleblower complaints and accounts that have been made to members of oversight committees in the U.S. House of Representatives. And in conjunction with this whistleblower portal from the Department of Treasury, Representative Tom Emmer, who is, of course, from Minnesota, has confirmed that investigators in Congress, they've got Minnesota state employees. They already have signed affidavits as federal whistleblowers, and people are giving the information necessary to not only get Tim Walz out of office, but also to put him in prison.
The big news that we got in the last 24 hours is that Tom Emmer, the number 3 member of the House, Republican leadership, He has confirmed on the record that congressional investigators are now have Minnesota state employees. We've known that there were these whistleblowers, these state legislators were talking to them. They've now become federal and congressional, and they're signing affidavits. And what Tom Emmer says is in the affidavits is people saying, I personally talked to the governor and his staff, Governor Tim Walz and his staff, and I told them about this fraud, told them it needed to be stopped, and they did nothing. They looked the other way. That is very significant. Now, Tom Emmer said, I think that's enough to bring criminal charges and to put the man in cuffs. Now, that is a very significant moment because Congress will take that testimony. It will make a criminal referral. And there is a U.S. attorney out in Minnesota, no glitz, no glamour, but they are rolling up indictments and they mean business. And it is very likely that Tim Walz will not only be hauled before Congress, but this evidence, if referred from Congress to the U.S. Attorney and the Justice Department, could result in Tim Walz becoming a subject or a target of the investigation. That's certainly what Tom Emmer thinks.
I believe that Tim Walz will become a subject of a criminal investigation because not only did he preside over this fraud, not only did he benefit from the fraud, but he also openly retaliated against whistleblowers. That's against the law. Tim Walz has done a lot to break the law, a lot to put himself in the crosshairs of the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice has continued slowly to roll out with these investigations after everything they've been finding in Minnesota, after all of the attention that's been put on it. Minnesota has become a sort of a touchstone, a flashpoint, if you will, to show just how much the American people have been screwed over. Tim Walz has benefited tremendously from this, and we need to get every single Somalian that's engaging in fraud out of the country, and we also need to go after the politicians that made it possible for that fraud to occur in the first place. It's Tony Man says, hey, Zach, I was thinking about you yesterday. I found out I have to get spinal cord surgery. Oh, good God, man. I hope you're going to be okay. I have to have L3, L4, L5, and S1 fusion done. I'm waiting for it to be scheduled. Not feeling too good about it. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. I've known a number of people who have gotten their vertebrae fused. Obviously, there's good and bad that comes along with it. Largely, their pain is no longer present, but of course, you're not flexible like you were before. I knew somebody that had titanium rods going like all the way up their back, so they couldn't bend any of the vertebrae basically up to midway through their rib cage. And yeah, it's no fun, dude, and I'll be praying for you for sure. 100%. Everybody pray for Tony. But I'm glad that you're in a position where if it's necessary, they're able to do it for you, and it's not going to hopefully cost you an arm and a leg. All right. Now, sticking with Minnesota. You guys know because I told you about it, but Minnesota now has a new program where you can take up to 20 weeks of paid leave, nearly half the year. You can take paid leave to take care of a person or a family member. You don't have to prove that that person needs your care. All you have to do is apply for it, and it's basically automatic. Now, obviously, based upon the situation in Minnesota and how it's devolved over the last decade or so, morale is pretty low inside the Minneapolis Police Department. There's a lot of good people there, a lot of good people who want to be cops, but they're not being allowed to police in a way that is congruent with, justice, fairness, safety, and all of that. So apparently some 60 to 70 police officers have turned in their paperwork as part of this 20-week paid plan, which is going to leave the Minneapolis Police Department essentially with no ability to police the city. All the more reason that the federal government is going to need to take a harder line stance inside the state of Minnesota. So we'll see how that plans out. I say Helio says, look for alternatives. I don't know personally what alternatives are. I mean, I know the only thing I've heard is that if you get to the point where they tell you that your spine needs to be fused, I don't know of anything else that would be available to you. I mean, could they put like synthetic discs in for you? Is that maybe a possibility? Artsy Jones says, you will feel better. Follow the protocols to the letter. Somalia is a state. No, Somalia is not a state. Minnesota. I said Minnesota. If I didn't say Somalia. Did I say Somalia? Oh, shit. Sorry about that. Anyway, if I did, I didn't mean it, obviously. Minnesota's a state. Somalia might as well be a state based upon the fact that we fund absolutely everything there. The citizens of Minnesota that send money there,
The citizens.
they send more money than Minnesota actually produces, or than Somalia produces on their own. Okay. Now, President Trump also yesterday at the Economic Club in Detroit mentioned that we are in the process of following through on his promise to revoke the citizenship of any naturalized immigrant, whether they're from Somalia or someplace else. If they are convicted of defrauding the United States of America, then we're going to kick their asses out.
We're also going to revoke the citizenship of any naturalized immigrant from Somalia or anywhere else who is convicted of defrauding our citizens. We're going to get them the hell out of here fast. And if you come to America to rob Americans, we're throwing you in jail and we're sending you back to the place from where you came. We're throwing you right in jail. We're also going
put them in jail, get rid of them. Now, there is a pathway to that exists within the current laws. However, it could be better. And so Senator Marsha Blackburn has just introduced a bill along with 6 other Republican co-sponsors that would change U.S. law to allow any naturalized American to have their citizenship stripped away if they've been convicted of any type of felony fraud going back to September of 1996. So it would make fraud a deportable offense without any financial threshold. So it doesn't have to be, super bad. If they defraud $5, then that would count. It's called the Fraud Accountability Act, and it would apply to any felony fraud conviction against a private person, also against a corporation, which is highly notable because a lot of these people are going to claim that the corporate personhood of whatever organization they were running, that's who's really to blame. It wasn't them. It was just some sort of nebulous system or a government entity as well. And it would remove the $10,000 threshold, which exists under current U.S. law. That's the point at which you would have to be found to be to be liable for in order to be deported at this point. So take a listen to this. Marsha Blackburn speaking about this law and what she's put forward.
Bill, good morning to you.
Yeah, Bill, good morning to you as well. Ever since this Minnesota fraud scandal started taking over the headlines, we've heard a lot of Republicans out there pitching this idea of denaturalizing and deporting anybody convicted in these fraud schemes. And now there's some brand new legislation designed to do just that. So Republican Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn has introduced this new bill. It's called the Fraud Accountability Act. What it would do is change U.S. law to allow any naturalized Americans convicted of any type of felony fraud to have their U.S. citizenship stripped away and also be deported. Now, the bill has 6 other Senate GOP co-sponsors, including Senators Cotton, Cornyn, Haggerty, Budd, Graham, and Kramer. And Senator Blackburn explained to me why she put forward this bill.
Providing this avenue so that these individuals who would come here and defraud the taxpayer are going to be removed from the country and do it in a more efficient and expedited way.
Do you expect any Senate Democrats to support this?
I would be honored to have them support it, and I think they should support it. When you look at, why would anybody be pro-fraud?
But if the bill passes this...
If they're benefiting from it, of course they would. And also, if it deports a significant portion of their voter base, of course they're going to be against it as well.
Senate, it would then head over to the House, and that is where we caught up with several Democrats who, unsurprisingly, are not fans of the idea of stripping citizenship away from anyone.
I think it's unconstitutional and illegal.
It ain't though, brother. It ain't.
I wish we would just move past this stuff about trying to strip citizenship away from people.
I think so long as the Republican Party and the Trump administration is using ICE to attack American citizens and shoot mothers in the face, I'm not willing to have a conversation with them about any other bad faith attempts to terrorize U.S. citizens.
Who the hell knows? These guys wanted to denaturalize the new mayor of New York City, so I don't put any credibility in what they're saying about denaturalization.
And Senator Blackburn's bill would apply to any type of felony fraud conviction, whether it's against a private person, a corporation, or the government. The bill is also retroactive, covering any felony fraud convictions going all the way back to September of 1996.
Who knows how many people have been convicted of felony fraud going back to 1996 and how many of them might be naturalized citizens. This could empty out a significant portion of the country, tens of thousands, if not millions of people, especially given that they would expand it from fraud against an individual, fraud against the government, fraud against a corporation. Every single one of them needs to be removed. Now, also, right along with this, we have a date effective February 1st. No more payments will be made by the federal government to states for the corrupt criminal protection centers known as sanctuary cities. All they do is breed crime and violence. If states want them, they will have to pay for them. Make America great again. So we have a countdown now. Today is the 14th of January. February 1st, all sanctuary cities, sanctuary states in the United States will no longer be funded by the federal government. This has to happen. We simply cannot allow these people to continue taking money out of the pockets of red states and using it to destroy the fabric of this great republic. Because every single time it happens, somebody gets hurt, something gets worse, and it makes it more difficult for you and your family to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, take a look at this, too. My friend Beaver over here at SomaliScan.com. She says Indiana spent $15 billion on social service agencies since 2022. So over the last 3 years, $4 billion out of that $15 billion went to child services that were responsible for 12,000 foster kids. $4 billion to service 12,000 foster kids. So why does the federal government pay for 90% of it? You can ask Mike Pence and the Indiana GOP. So she began investigating Indiana because someone who follows her had donated and said, hey, you should really look into Indiana and see what's going on right here. Including that federal subsidy, Indiana spends about $110,000 per foster child. But here's the kicker. Each family or caretaker only gets about $9,000 to $19,000 per year. The other $80,000 per year goes to consulting firms and a bloated system that's actually being created by GOP lobbyists, and all of it is paid for by your tax dollars. Deloitte is a consulting firm that has received nearly $200 million from the government. They've profited from the waste in every way possible. They have an Indiana lobbyist, and that Indiana lobbyist is a former 3-term state GOP chairman. They've got another lobbyist at the same firm that was literally the sitting GOP chair until December 2024, a man by the name of Randy Head. In 2015, it was Governor Mike Pence who hired Deloitte to do an independent analysis of DCS caseloads, and Deloitte recommended improved IT systems, which it got hired to build. They also got hired to maintain them. And $70 million, guess who is still maintaining those IT systems? It's Deloitte. Well, there's a whistleblower and a former DCS director, a woman by the name of Mary Beth Bonaventura. She warned that this system was failing children, and after 36 years of child welfare, was forced out of the system in 2017, right before the spending took off. So the state of Indiana has a terrible bloating issue perpetrated by GOP lobbyists and complicit politicians. So this goes to show you that the problem is not simply among Democrats. The fraud, waste, and abuse is being perpetrated and being taken advantage of by career politicians and bureaucrats, no matter what party they are. This is deeply embedded and much more sophisticated as a type of fraud when you compare it to the fraud taking place at daycares in Minnesota. Mike Pence brought in executives to run child care services. His healthcare advisor, who went on to run Medicare and Medicaid at a federal level, received $6.6 million from Indiana while she was advising the state. And half of the lobbyists are connected to or are former members of the GOP. And nobody is motivated to help stop the abuse in these foster care systems or to help the children who are in foster care. So citizens in Indiana need to be aware that their tax dollars are quite literally being lit on fire and going straight into the pockets of people with connections to state government. Deloitte is a can of worms on its own. They take in $16 billion a year from the U.S. from federal funding and from 25 other states. Deloitte is a consulting firm that hires ex-politicians to lobby to get more consulting jobs. It's a revolving door of waste and, quite literally, most likely fraud. Half of the payments from the Tennessee state government are change orders for fixes. They get rewarded for doing a bad job. She's got a full report on Deloitte that's coming out this week, and she says it's about as bad as you can expect. You can read through the progress in Indiana on this report right here. And I would encourage each and every one of you to go bookmark SomaliScan.com. Yes, this fraud, waste, and abuse is not just in Minnesota. It's not just in Washington. It's not just in the states that are being run by Democrats. It's in every state in the union to varying degrees, one degree or another. Everybody has their hand in the cookie jar. Everybody but the American people. And those that these programs are purported to help are reaping the benefits of this fraud. All right, now.
No, nothing.
What we have here. Oh, my God. Why is my stream not going? What the hell's going on? What the hell is going on? Yeah, I know. I just figured it out. I don't know why it's not working. I call out. Okay, it's working now. It's back. It's back, guys. Okay, tell me when you can see me again. JJ Patriot Girl says she's from Indiana. Okay, great. I'm back. All right. Awesome, guys. Awesome. All right, so take a look at this. What we have here is CNN doing an interview with the father of Renee Nicole Good. He was actually the former father-in-law. So this is the man that she sired children with who killed himself. And the host at CNN, I don't remember her name, she continuously tries to get this man to attack ICE, to attack President Trump, and he doesn't take the bait. Take a listen.
About charges or anything that, just an investigation into what happened in terms of the ICE agents' actions. But they were, according to the prosecutors resigning today, pressuring them to investigate Renee's actions and Becca, her wife's actions. How do you feel about all that?
Well, I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, it's a hard situation all the way around. It's hard for for everybody involved. I mean, the ICE agent, at first I didn't see the footage where, he was actually, he was actually being ran. I mean, I seen the bump of the car hitting his legs. And so in a flash like that, it's hard to say how you would react. From my understanding that he had been through that before, maybe dragged or something. And so, like I said, it's just a hard situation for everybody. Becca, she's a great person as well. I mean, I don't have any enemies. I love everybody, and that's what the Bible tells us: love our neighbors as we love ourselves. But I think there's some after God will come up on the children of disobedience, and it's I don't blame ICE, I don't blame Rebecca, I don't blame Renee. I just wish that if we're walking the Spirit of God, I don't think she would have been there. That's the way I look at it.
For the wrath of God will come upon the children of inobedience. He's absolutely right. If Renee Nicole Good had not made the decision to ram her car into that ICE agent, then she wouldn't have found herself in that position. Now, as was mentioned in that segment, at least 6 prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis have just resigned in protest because the Department of Justice is, in fact, probing the actions of Renee Good's widow. We have that cell phone footage, which shows her taunting the ICE agents, telling her wife to drive. She said, "You want to come at us?" She was trying to act like a big boy. I say, go get yourself some lunch. Then the ICE agents tell Renee to get out of the car. She says, drive, baby, drive. She drives straight into the ICE agent. The ICE agent is hit, and then he discharges his weapon, and Renee Nicole Good effed around and found out. So now these career prosecutors have left, and they're also saying that Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson is part of this group who have left. Now, Joe Thompson is the guy who uncovered all of that fraud in Minnesota. Now, it was announced yesterday that he might be looking for a role at Maine Justice, or he may be running for office in the state of Minnesota. But he was appointed by President Trump, and he served until till very recently. And they're saying that these DOJ prosecutors are protesting because they do not want to look into Renee Nicole Good's widow. I think that they have to look into Renee Nicole Good's widow. Now, even though the father-in-law will not attack ICE, of course, Ilhan Omar, even after seeing that footage of the justified shooting of Renee Nicole Good, calls her death an execution. Let's take a listen to Ilhan Omar.
You have said, Congresswoman, that as part of accountability, that it's important for people to record ICE agents so that, to take cell phone videos when things happen. But I'm curious about how you feel now in the context of the tragedy that happened to Renee Good, right? Her wife was filming the tragedy. The ICE officer who shot Good was also filming, right? So we've got lots of video, never mind all the other people who are around. But I'm wondering if you're worried that by encouraging people to film, that could be encouraging somehow people to end up in more danger.
Yes, it would.
I mean, if you think about what ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or if you think about what the border control agents are doing, it's that they don't have jurisdiction.
Well, again, she's fundamentally wrong. They do have jurisdiction. And even more than that, Stephen Miller, we're going to go to him because I don't really want to hear Ilhan Omar talking for 3 minutes. Ilhan Omar, of course, is going to repeat a bunch of lies. Stephen Miller wants everybody in ICE to remember that they've got federal immunity. They've also got a mandate to conduct their duties. When they go to a place like Minneapolis, and they engage in these immigration raids, and they arrest people that have final orders of removal or are criminals or have no business being in our streets. They have all the jurisdiction they need. They have a constitutional mandate. They have a legal prescription to engage in the behavior that they do. And Stephen Miller wants them to remember that they have that protection. They have federal immunity to do their jobs. And if during the course of their jobs, someone like Renee Nicole Good drives a car into them, they are covered in the event they must discharge their weapons.
To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. And anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties. And the Department of Justice has made clear that if officials cross that line into obstruction, into criminal conspiracy against the United States or against ICE officers, then they will face justice. To all ICE officers.
And Renee Nicole Good, unfortunately, faced justice in the way that she demanded it. She could have gotten some other form of due process if she had gotten out of the vehicle, relinquished her keys, and stopped impeding those ICE officers. She probably would have gotten a very low-level criminal charge, and she would have lived to ride another day, to take care of her kids, even the ones that she lost custody of, because she would rather be with her live-in lover who was putting cigarettes out on the other children. She would have had at least the opportunity to see her kids. But she chose the bullet. She chose to go out like that. She chose to become a martyr. American Patriot says all of the trillions and billions, trillions and millions of dollars of fraud being discovered, that's being paid for by the taxpayers. The people should be standing up and not pay their taxes. Love the show. I would love nothing more than for America to begin a tax revolt. That would be absolutely incredible. Now, we've seen the video. We saw what happened. Jon Stewart just claimed that what Nicole Goode did was a small act of defiance. A small act of defiance. Now, let me ask you a question. If Jon Stewart was standing in front of my vehicle and refused to move, and I drove over him, do you think he would consider it a small act of defiance? He said, when I look at that vehicle, I don't see both sides in a dogmatic stance. I see a woman, maybe naive, sitting in a car thinking she has to do something. Why does she think she has to do something? It's because of people on the left, because of politicians. It's because of left-wing influencers telling them that they must, giving them this skewed version of reality that ICE is a fascistic organization that is unconstitutionally coming into our communities, rounding up people who are totally innocent, who are American citizens, processing them into concentration camps and stealing their kids from them. None of that is true. But I see morons online repeating this shit over and over and over again. They have literally no idea of what's really happening out on those streets. He says she's going to block something in a wildly extreme overreaction to that small act of defiance. And then, when they say, she was radicalized, I just think, well, there are masked gunmen in her neighborhood. There are federal agents wearing masks because they live in the communities and they are being doxxed. Their wives, their children are being threatened. People have been victims of domestic terrorism. Antifa has shown up, very poorly equipped, but they have shown up and they have attempted to murder people. There have been left-wing Antifa snipers. He says she's read about taking 17-year-old kids and pulling them off the street. She has been fundamentally misinformed about the actions of ICE. This was not a small act of defiance. This was an attempt to murder a federal agent. Now, we also have learned that that agent who was struck by Nicole Goode actually was injured quite a bit more than what people had thought. He actually received internal bleeding as a result of being struck by that vehicle. So that officer, Jonathan Ross, suffered internal bleeding to the torso following the incident, according to 2 U.S. officials briefed on his medical condition. It was unclear how extensive the bleeding was, but hell, internal bleeding is no good, no matter how extensive it may be. CBS tried to reach out to DHS for comment, but nobody wanted to talk to them. Kristi Noem previously acknowledged that Ross was taken to the hospital after the shooting and was released the same day. She said he was recovering from his injuries, describing him as an experienced law enforcement officer. We've seen the video. We've seen how much worse it could have been. I showed you that video of a cop getting run over by a Jeep. You guys know exactly how bad it could be. Well, let me show you another one. This woman also found herself ventilated prematurely. Let me show you this one, because this is another example of just how quickly things can go wrong and why it was pertinent for that officer to take action.
Get out of the car!
She already hit him
Get
once.
Out of the car! Get out of the car! Now!
She could leave right now.
Get out of the car!
She launched that cop through the air. He was hit with such force, he flew over the snowbank, and he was lodged half underneath that chain link fence. And she got ventilated, as she should have.
Shots fired! You're hit!
Broke this cop.
No, you're not.
Now, here's the view from the body camera, so you can see just how quickly things can go wrong.
Turn off the car. Turn off the car. No. 299, she's fleeing.
She hit him once already.
Get out of the car! Get out of the Get out of the car!
Again, a white woman.
299, she almost struck me.
This is in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Get out of the car! Ah! Turn off the car. Turn off the car.
Now here's the other cop's body cam.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Now! Get out of the car! Shots fired! Officer hit!
Absolutely insane. She did it on purpose, just like Renee Nicole Good did it on purpose. She got what she deserved. They both got what they deserved. Teresa Pagano says, for you, misbehaving Irishman. Okay, so misbehaving Irishman must have posted this into the chat. Hold on just a second. We'll pull this up now. Thank you for that, Teresa and the misbehaving Irishman. Oh, I showed this yesterday. I showed this yesterday when we were talking about all the stuff related to DHS. Yes. Artsy Jones says, Zach, can you find out if Good 6-year-old is still with the widow wife? Yes, she is, because as far as I know, she's with the widow wife. She may be going with the grandparents. I would assume that the grandparents would probably fight for custody. The father of that child is the one who killed himself. And if the kids are beneficiaries on the GoFundMe. So the only beneficiary on the GoFundMe is the widow. You can only have a single beneficiary on a GoFundMe account. Did the wife get arrested for child abuse? The wife was reported to have abused the other 2 children, and that was part of the official record. The kids reported it, and those children were taken from Renee Nicole Good because she refused to break up with that woman that was with her on the day she was shot. Yes, all of that is confirmed. I've seen the documents. I don't have them in front of me. But she was able to keep that kid because the wife did not abuse that particular kid. She abused the other kids. All right. Now, before we continue, I've got a very brief message from our friends over here on Rumble, and then we will round out our final series of stories. You guys, if you were someone you love struggles with blood sugar and A1C, you need to hear this. It's well known the expensive meds and the popular shots have dangerous side effects. Well, Creator's Bounty has developed the perfect alternative. It's an herbal supplement called Elohitrim. It's a 100% natural formula that's proven to dramatically lower your blood sugar and A1C. It uses 7 healthy ingredients, no stimulants, no junk. These 7 ingredients would cost you over $150 if you bought them all separately. But here's the best part. There are no bad side effects, only good ones. We're talking sugar cravings gone, inflammation reduced, and stable energy all day with 0 crashes. Seriously, most of the people are getting better results than they did on the harsh meds, but they do not have to worry about the risk. Because Elohitrim is made in the USA at an FDA-registered facility. It's fully tested, and it's backed by a no-questions-asked 90-day money-back guarantee. The friendly folks at Creator's Bounty offer fast and free shipping 5 days a week from their location in Oklahoma. So head on over to creatorsbounty.com/rumble and take advantage of the special offer today. You can also use that QR code on screen right there. All right. I'm the captain now. Yeah, I just about died when I saw that yesterday. I was like, I couldn't believe it, especially after he took TPS from Somalians. That was great. All right. Now, as we have spoken about on many different occasions, we know that there is an organized money machine that is taking place behind the scenes, either to pay protesters, to pay these ICE Watch members, to pay the people who are obstructing ICE, to make the signs, to transport people, to bring them from city to city. It's the same groups that are organizing the protests, that are getting people on the street, that have been doing it since President Trump's first term in office. And Tom Homan says, we are aware. In fact, he just got back from a meeting that he can't talk about at the White House dealing with this specifically. The DOJ and Treasury are hot on the trail And these people are being located and they will be charged.
Well, I just left the meeting about 20 minutes ago here at the White House. I can't say a lot, but let me say this. Okay. We are aware of this coordinated effort. We are aware that this is being financed. We are aware that there are actual groups, well coordinated, to attack the men and women of ICE and to try to prevent them from doing their jobs. Accountability is coming because we're working very closely with the DOJ, the FBI, HSI. We're doing a deep dive into this. We'll follow the money. We'll follow these groups. We'll investigate these groups. Justice has come to these people. Well,
now, I know people are going to say, why not yet? Why not yet? And as I have always contended, it is far better to have a case that is based on unimpeachable evidence than it is to have a sloppy indictment put together in a hasty fashion that can then be overturned, overtaken, argued away by a competent series of lawyers. Remember, a lot of these Antifa people have got access to many, many millions of dollars. They've got access to the best lawyers that money can buy, the same lawyers that have been fighting President Trump in this corrupt judicial system since the very first term. We need to make sure that the money is followed, that the networks are shut off, that the money is also taken, forfeited, and put into the hands of the American government for the benefit of the American people. But accountability is coming. This is not going to last forever. Now, in another form of accountability, we've talked before about the fact that the government is now going to be looking at the employers in sanctuary cities. Well, in Minnesota, we're starting to see an uptick in I-9 audits of employers. So these are audits that are done to verify that a business is employing only people who are legally allowed to be in our country. Now, we've already seen raids on businesses like Chinese restaurants, Mexican restaurants, raids on roofers and contractors. We've seen countless numbers of illegal aliens get picked up. So we know that these raids are already happening. But these I-9 audits do not require a warrant by ICE or Homeland Security. They just need to provide 72 hours notice of such an audit. So the raids will be to arrest people that they already know are there. The audits will be to determine ahead of time, if they perhaps don't have agents that are on hand on that day, that they're going to come in and they're going to take a look at the paperwork. All of these people are going to have people on the books. There is a significant level of legal exposure for employers who fail to comply with these audits. If they do not allow them to come in, well, then that's going to be a sign that something much bigger is happening. But if they don't have the proper documentation on hand, there are not only fines, but there are legal charges that can be brought against the owners and the managers of these businesses. So this is the next wave of enforcement action that we're going to see having long-lasting and far-reaching effects in not just places like Minnesota, but this is all over the country. I'm sure you remember a couple of months ago, I played a clip for you of a contractor down here in Florida. Guy owns a contracting business in the Keys. There's all kinds of dudes down there that would love to get a little extra bucks in their pockets and go work building houses. But they can't because all of the illegals work there. This guy was an American and he's crying because all the illegals that he hires, probably under the table, probably for a lot less than he would be paying Americans, pocketing the difference. He's crying because these illegals are not going to be able to show up and drink their cerveza and put up shitty walls that are not plumb or level, leaving their beer cans under the foundation of the house, putting in a substandard product for people who are paying for multi-million-dollar homes. I have no sympathy for American citizens who hire illegal aliens. This is exactly what we need to have happen. We need these people to pay the price for putting Americans out of the job market. This is happening. I'm very, very happy to see it. Get rid of them. All right. Now, let me say thank you to Filter Dog. Again, I said thank you to that one already. Spin City News. Thank you for the can. Appreciate you, homie. Sean Joe, thank you for the can. One Thunder, thank you for the can. No Thanks Joe says, with another government shutdown looming at the end of 17 days and the Dems not supporting any bill with money for ICE or any bill deporting anyone in any way, it sounds to me that they will have to have the Republican base support and pressure Thune and Senator into reversing the Filibuster Act. Bless again. So, yes, there are a number of Republican reconciliations that are set to pass through the House. They have enough support to go through the House, and then they have to go to the Senate. And if the Senate is unable to get things passed because they can't get any more than 51 votes, then obviously the Democrats are doing that because they want to try to shut down ICE. They've already signaled this. We've already talked about it a little bit. But this would be the time to end the filibuster and just push it through with a simple majority. Sean Joe, thank you for the 2 cookies. Darla says she sure did not think about her kids. Oh, wait. The wife putting cigarettes out on her kids, and she chose the child-abusing wife over the kids. Wifey said, go, drive, go. So guess what? It must have been true love. Absolutely. Trump 1, thank you for the cookie. Sean Joe, thank you for 1, 2, 3 cookies. Red Gun 51, thank you for the can. And Filter Dog 1, thank you for the 199 gold pills. All right, now, we also had a situation develop in the city of New York over the last 24 hours. There was a staffer on the New York City Council who was recently detained in the building by federal agents. He was not a citizen of the United States. He overstayed his visa. He's also accused of assault. And Mayor Zoran Mamdani is not happy about this illegal alien being caught up in this federal sting. He's angry for the same reason people like Ilhan Omar are mad about ICE coming in and deporting her voting base. They're mad because these people they see as their constituents. Let me be very clear. Only American citizens with the legal ability to vote are the constituents of a politician. Just because somebody lives in a district and is eating up resources and taking the benefits that should be going to an American citizen, that does not make them a constituent. If they are here in this country illegally, they are not a constituent. But as always, these lefties want to conflate these concepts so that people will see a body and immediately associate it with the same thing as a citizen. They are not citizens. They are not constituents. They do not have the same rights and responsibilities that American citizens have. They don't understand that what they are doing, well, maybe they do understand. Actually, I think they do. They understand that by conflating these issues, they are causing anger, anxiety, resentment, hatred, all negative emotions in their base. People like Zoran Mamdani and even people like Ilhan Omar want to spark a revolution of sorts. They want sedition. They want treasonous activity. They want a rebellion to take place. So the U.S. Department of Homeland Security had identified this 53-year-old man, Rafael Andre Rubio Bajorquez, and they came in and they arrested him because he overstayed his visa. He had already been told to leave several years ago. After he was told to leave, he assaulted someone. Mamdani wrote on social media, I am outraged to hear a New York City Council employee was detained in Nassau County by federal immigration officials at a routine immigration appointment. The appointment was to get the hell out of the country. This is an assault on our democracy. It's not a democracy, it's a republic. On our city and our values. I am calling for his immediate release and will continue to monitor the situation. Well, guess what? He's not going to be released. Federal officials said this man overstayed a 2017 tourist visa. He didn't even have the right to have a job in New York City. He was arrested in this assault case. New York City Council Speaker Julie Menin claimed he had legal authorization to remain in the country until October of this year. He had no but Tricia McLaughlin said, actually, bitch, he had no legal right to be in the United States. Under Secretary Noem, criminal illegal aliens are not welcome in the United States. If you come to our country illegally and you break our law, we will find you and we will arrest you. Again, he came here on a tourist visa. And then after coming on a tourist visa and overstaying that visa, he got into a fight or he hit his girlfriend. Who knows? He assaulted someone, and that is not permissible. You can't come to the United States of America, break the law, and expect to be had the red carpet rolled out for you. All right. Now, Elon Musk, you guys may remember, he had a baby some time ago with a former conservative influencer. I hate the term influencer personally, but that's when people ascribe the term to me. Ashley St. Clair was an influencer. She was like a professional tweeter. So she somehow got into Elon Musk's pants. And after the baby was born, it came out that she had been passing DMs around with other people in like Con Inc. And she was talking about how she wanted to baby trap Elon Musk. Well, she did that. And she wasn't supposed to talk about it, but she came out afterwards because she wanted more money. And Elon Musk had already given her a condo or an apartment or a brownstone in New York City. He had already agreed to give her so much money per year and an ongoing amount of money in child support. But once she came out and started speaking, I think she wrote a book. She also tried to do a podcast because Elon Musk cut her off. He basically said, you know what, I'm done with you. I don't need to have anything to do with you. So she goes on Twitter and she claims that she has changed her stance on gender transitioning children. So Elon did not like that. And he said that he did not want another son to fall to the woke mind virus as his son Xavier did. If you'll remember, Xavier is now Vivian and is on hormones and is now getting surgeries. I think Vivian did some modeling for like Victoria's Secret or some other clothing company or something like that. So Elon declared on X that he was now seeking full custody for the son whose name is Romulus. And this is the first time he's ever called this kid his son. He hasn't really admitted it on social media. So the announcement comes after Ashley St. Clair publishes a post repenting her former opposition to transgender ideology and making what was apparently an inflammatory reference to her own son and the other son of Elon Musk, Xavier, who is now the transgender woman, Vivian. So she published a book for kids back in 2022 called Elephants Are Not Birds. And in that book, it kind of mocks the concept of gender fluidity. You know, that's totally fine with me. I don't care. So then on X here, she says, in replying to Onion Person, who says, you've previously engaged in blatant transphobia. How do you feel about trans people in the wake of noticing how the far right truly is? And she says, I feel immense guilt for my role, and even more guilt that things I have said in the past may have caused my son's sister more pain. I don't know right now how to make amends for many of these things, but I have been trying incredibly hard privately to learn and advocate for those within the trans community I've hurt. So a lot of people saw this. They tagged Elon and they were like, yo, homie, you might want to do something about this. So somebody said something to her about this on X and she blocked them. And this person shares the screen grab of the block and says, Elon needs full custody. Coming out in support of trans grooming like this is insane. And guess what? Elon responded. He said, I will be filing for full custody today. This was on the 12th, so 2 days ago. Given her statements implying she might transition a 1-year-old boy. That 1-year-old boy obviously is his son Romulus. So after all of this support pours out unanimously for Elon on X, of course, you know, he lives on X. And so he went there and he basically did what I think any father would do in this instance. Now, of course, Elon has got more money than anybody else. He's like the richest man on planet Earth right now. And so I would think that he's probably going to get full custody away from Ashley St. Clair. She's kind of a loose cannon as it is. Now, she never said specifically that she was going to transition her kid, but she, you know, I mean, just the implication that suddenly she's in favor of gender transition for children, that's scary enough. Now, maybe she was just trying to get Elon's attention. I think she's done things a couple of times to do this. He's got 13 kids. Maybe she felt that he wasn't paying enough attention to their kid. He was given $2.5 million as an upfront payout. She was supposed to receive $500,000 a year. He also gave her that apartment or that building, whatever it was. And she also did an interview with Newsweek. And because of that interview, he stopped paying her the money that he was supposed to be paying her. She's probably not spending her money very wisely. She kind of just seems like a convenient conning trap from my perspective. She also did that podcast, Bad Advice with Ashley St. Clair, but nobody listened, so she's not doing it anymore. And I want to wish Elon Musk all the best. Please get custody of your child and do not allow that woman to raise it. All right, now we have more controversy coming out of the state of Michigan. This time, not about elections, but the current Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, who is an acolyte of George Soros and the Open Society Foundation, also running for governor in Michigan. She has been hit with a discrimination lawsuit. Apparently, this white liberal woman has created a racially hostile environment inside the Secretary of State's office. This was not on my bingo card. However, I feel that some of the most racist and intolerant people in America are those who are allegedly the most liberal. And quite often, white liberal women are the worst of the worst. So 4 black employees under Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson have filed this bombshell civil lawsuit against her, and not only her, but other key staffers at the Secretary of State. And they are charging them with blatant racial discrimination, fostering a toxic anti-black workplace. And in addition to Jocelyn Benson, who is frequently in court fighting lawsuits where she is charged with making unlawful election practices or making elections less secure, her chief of staff, Christina Anderson, is also involved. Labor Relations Manager Brittany Edwards, John Strodek, Chief Operating Officer Jackie Venton are all listed as co-defendants in the lawsuit. So this was filed Monday in Wayne County Circuit Court, and it appears to be corroborated by a 2024 bombshell where another employee blasted Jocelyn Benson's Secretary of State and called it a racially hostile environment. Not shockingly, under the leadership of the state's most non-transparent Secretary of State in the history of the state of Michigan, the state quietly shelled out a whopping $775,000 to settle that complaint, and then they just swept it under the rug and they never talked about it ever again. So now you got another group of people coming forward with the exact same claims. They filed the lawsuit. Maybe Jocelyn Benson was not willing to do another series of settlements, considering how close she is to the governor's election. So was Benson's work as a summer associate for the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, her role as the associate director of the law school's Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights, and serving on the board of the hate group, the Southern Policy Law Center, where she allegedly investigated white supremacists, was this all just a cover for how she truly feels about blacks in America? Could it be that Jocelyn Benson presents one face to the public, has a lot of things to say about being tolerant and diversity, equity, and inclusion, but then behind the scenes, she's secretly discriminating against black Americans and doesn't really like them, doesn't want to let them rise to a level of prominence? I would guess that if we go and look at all of these people that are being sued along with her, they're also probably white liberals. Now, these are the plaintiffs. 3 current black staffers, David Murray, Elvine Van Bolden, and Michael Foster, plus former high-ranking Nerva Civilius. They've been with the state for over 21 years. This is Elvin Van Bolden. This is Nerva Cilius right here. They're calling out Benson's crew for a widespread pattern of retaliation against black employees who dare to speak up about discrimination. Defendants have no effective system in place to track, correct, or prevent the unlawful discriminatory conduct, the complaint explains. And the lawsuit also includes an affidavit from former Assistant Secretary of State Heaster Wheeler, who also just happens to be a black powerhouse, who cited rampant racial discrimination as a top reason for leaving the state of Michigan. Wheeler is not a plaintiff, but He is providing testimony, and it looks like it's going to be pretty damaging for everyone who is being sued. This also came out the same day Michigan's first black lieutenant governor, Garland Gilchrist II, bailed out on his Secretary of State bid just one day before the Michigan Democrat Party Black Caucus shamelessly endorses Benson's gubernatorial run. Wow. They endorsed her the same day the lawsuit was filed. So that's interesting. May need them to pull that back. So I don't know if this really happened, but I tend to believe that it probably did. I tend to believe that she is probably a really terrible and gross person in her private life because she is totally intolerable and awful in her public life as well. So Jocelyn Benson's office is in full denial mode. They are labeling these claims as absolutely false, and they are trotting out some supposed clear policies on vehicle use and hiring. The spokesperson for Benson's office, Angela Benander, said the secretary and department leadership do not tolerate any harassment, discrimination, or retaliation. Well, apparently there's a lot of black people who work at the Secretary of State who feel totally different. Black workers are reportedly held to impossible standards while white colleagues skate by. Promotions are denied, endless improvement plans slapped on, and bogus investigations over state vehicles, all without any real policies in place. Wheeler's affidavit nails it. No clear rules on training on vehicles, hiring, or discipline, leading to biased application, targeting black employees. He even confronted Benson directly, and she did nothing. That's why he left his job in 2024. There's another one, former bureau boss Angela Harkness, who scored that $775,000 payout. Her claims back up what these plaintiffs are claiming. The department knowingly failed to take action against this racially hostile environment. In August of last year, Harkness, who had served as the former director of quality and customer experience for the Department of State, alleged that her authority and duties were reduced in late 2023 and that she was treated differently than similarly situated white and male coworkers. She has filed a notice of intent to sue the state of Michigan Court of Claims against the department and several other staff members. Looks like this would be Angela Harkness right here. Now, the Michigan Department of State did not admit to any wrongdoing when they paid her nearly $1 million, $750,000 to be exact. They did, however, say in their agreement that this was the best way they could avoid the time and litigation involved. Now, Civilis was a top public engagement director. She claims she was pressured to fire elderly employees based on their age. That's low. And when she refused, bam, she got retaliated against. They docked her pay. There was threats of firing her while she was sick with COVID. She got duties stripped from her. Her staff was cut. She got no raises. And it all started when she refused to fire people simply because they were older. Then came her performance plan. They accused her of misusing her vehicle, which reportedly led to her indefinite suspension and her firing in November of 2025. According to her, she lost her health benefits amid very serious health issues. She was probably vaccinated because she worked for the state government of Michigan, and her reputation was trashed with bad faith interviews. Benson's office countered her claims with data showing Civilis clocked 142 days of vehicle use, which is triple the next highest, and that included weekdays and holidays. Murray, who was a Benson staffer since 2023, got passed over for a youth engagement gig in favor of a less experienced and white coworker. Then she faced heightened scrutiny, lost responsibilities, and also vehicle use accusations with zero training. Now he's forced to commute from Detroit to Lansing weekly as retaliation. Foster was a 22-year vet turned training specialist and has been complaining about unequal treatment since 2023. As a reward, an overlong performance plan which blocked any raises or opportunities was done, stripped of duties, longer commutes without mileage pay, all triggering emotional and physical breakdowns, forcing 8 months of sick leave, 5 of which were unpaid. Van Bolden was a state manager since 2002. Was called racist by her white director for hiring a black candidate, then dinged on performance reviews for not following DEI policy. A later black director piled on with an excessive improvement plan, costing her a raise in 2025. And this is the equity Benson's task force was supposed to fix? It's pretty funny. Lots of hypocrisy in the Democrat Party, certainly in an environment like this. But I look forward to seeing how this lawsuit goes. All right, now, one final story. This is just a little kicker from RFK Jr. He was recently doing an interview, and he said that, he was asked who should be the most unhealthy who should be the most unhealthy individual in the administration. And he said, President Trump, without a doubt. The man eats poison all day long, but he is the best shape out of anybody in the administration. Take a listen to this.
He's incredible health. Dr. Oz looked at his medical records and said he's got the highest testosterone level that he's ever seen for an individual over 70 years old. I know the president will be happy that I repeat that.
President Trump has got the biggest balls of anybody who we've looked at in this administration. Highest testosterone levels of any man ever reviewed over the age of 70. That says for something. That speaks for something. And that's the reason that President Trump is not afraid to get out there and take those balls out, put them right on the table, right in front of whomever it is that he is making a deal with. Because when his opponent sees those big brass balls, they know they've got no chance of getting one over on President Trump. I absolutely love it. Love that man. Love that man. Love that man. Final thank yous over here. Filter Dog 1 says, Patriot Donnie just reported back from the doctor. No cancer. Hallelujah. I had seen on Pilled that Patriot Donnie was having some sort of health issue. Thank God he doesn't have cancer. Glad to hear it. Filter Dog 1, Serpentine says, beautiful, healthy brass balls. That is right. Gold balls. That should be gold balls, probably. Boys Blanc says, I'm loving Florida, buying a second home. Good for you, Boys Blanc. Make sure that you are down here at least 6 months out of the year so you can get the homestead tax exemption. It will dramatically reduce your tax bill every year. And we are working on doing away with property taxes for homesteaded property owners down here in Florida. But, of course, the legislature is also working to F us on that as well. Filter Dog 1, thank you again. Norwegian Wood says Soros spelled backwards means asshole. All right, that's it. All right, you guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything over on Cash App or anything like that. And thank you to everybody supporting through the website. Really do appreciate it. Susan, thank you so much. Today at 521, $100. Thank you so much, Susan. She says, for great news content. You are a beautiful person, Susan. I really appreciate the support. All right, you guys, don't forget about the final sponsors of the show. My good friend Jessica over at All Good, goallgood.com. You can head on over to goallgood.com, use code RP78 to get a discount and support this program and an American business. All Good includes incredible, pure tallow products, all natural products, skincare that is purposeful. Every single thing in their products, it'll actually tell you why it's in the products. All of their products mimic your skin's natural actions, so you're not going to have any negative reactions. All of the packaging is natural as well. It's a beautiful amber glass, high quality. You can use it for other stuff in the future. They've got moisturizers, face balms, sunscreen, soothing serum, hair care products. You can also get bundles, give yourself a special deal as well. And, of course, my friends over at tamaracgarden.com. Use code RP78 to get a special discount as well. And again, support an American family-owned company. They source every single one of their ingredients from the mountains where they live. All natural, incredible stuff as well. They sent me a bunch of pain relief stuff for my back. It has done an amazing job in helping me to be able to continue stay on my feet and continue to work for the last 2 weeks. Of course, I have also been using DMSO several times a day, and you can get that from my friends over at onenessdrops.com. Use the code Red Pill 78, or is it RP 78? Hold on. It's Red Pill 78. onenessdrops.com/Red Pill 78. And they, of course, also have chlorine dioxide water purification kits. They have mullein extract for your lungs. They have soursop extract for cellular regeneration. Their DMSO, it works so good. I messed up my shoulder the other night, guys. I had because I got kettlebells and I was working out with the kettlebells and something popped in my shoulder, and every single time I moved my arm, it was popping and I could hear it. I put DMSO on it and immediately it stopped hurting. I went to bed. The next morning, popping was gone. I had full range of motion back. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the DMSO. And I have got I've got products up the wazoo. All right, I put the DMSO on first. I allow that to soak in. And then I've got some balms and products that Tamarack Garden sent me. Then I put that on over the top. And then if I need to, I wear my back brace. And then I can alternate on and off through all that stuff all day, put it on before I go to bed. I feel really, really good, and I really appreciate them. Also, don't forget about my friends over at ConsciousStrength.net. Use code RP78. My friend Jordan, he has a whole bunch of natural products that he also creates. Whole host of things such as the methylene blue, which I also use every day. It's a nootropic, and it helps your brain to create new neural connections. It works at the cellular level to increase ATP production in your mitochondria, which you need to be able to continue moving, working, having energy all day. It is natural energy that your body is creating, not artificial energy like, from caffeine or something like that. And then, of course, finally, over at My Patriot Supply, which is preparewithredpill78.com, all of their amazing survival kits and survival food, solar generators, solar panels, everything that you need in case the world goes to tits up, we'll say. All right, so thank you again. Good luck. God bless. I will see you tonight over on Badlands Media at 9 p.m. for Altered State. But if I don't see you there, hopefully you're back here with me tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. Please hit the like button. Please help us by sharing the show. And I will send you guys on a raid someplace, as well as passing out these gold pills. Peace.